It is Sunday, the 15th of November. Busy times, momentous times, obviously lots happening. But I want to start this video on a slightly different note to what I normally do, from a slightly different perspective. Obviously, I often get into the fine detail of what's going on in the scamdemic and the fine detail, the nuts and bolts of all the machinations that are happening. And there are many truthers of this nature, many researchers and YouTubers and speakers in the field who are what I refer to as real-world truthers. So they get involved in 3D, this 3D reality, and all the detail of it, places, dates, times, data, information, documents, that kind of thing. Then you have those who don't get involved in that level of fine detail, and they stay more focused on the spiritual and metaphysical aspects of what's going on. And I've really been someone that has always had one foot in both camps. So although I've been primarily a truth/conspiracy/alternative researcher, I've never thrown out the metaphysical side of things. And I've found myself very guided by what is going on in those realms. And I had a very interesting conversation this week with a spiritual medium who I've known for some time, and we've had a few discussions going back and forth over the years. But this one really resonated with me, and he reached out to me to give me some insights that he's been receiving, that he's been channeling from what he refers to as his spirit guides. And he says that he intuits and brings through certain visions and certain information and certain insights into what's going on and what is going to happen in the near future. And he's put a perspective on this whole C-word situation by pointing out that what we are undergoing here is literally nothing less than a battle between the forces of good and evil, darkness versus light. And we are at a moment in human history where we are about to undergo a major paradigm shift and an elevation of human consciousness. This was by no means a unique conversation for me. I've heard many spiritual mediums and psychics talk along these lines over the past few weeks. And the interesting thing about what they say is they all correlate each other's information. They're coming from different parts of the world. So some of them are in Australia, big shout to JCK. Some of them are in America, Laurie Ladd and many others. They're from all over Europe. They're from far-flung corners of the world. And they're all coming with pretty much the same story. They're putting different slants on it, but they're all stating that we are about to enter an era where we are going to be affected by the forces that surround us. And a lot of people are pinpointing the date of the Winter Solstice this year, 21st of December. There is supposed to be a major paradigm shift on that date, largely brought about by a conjunction that is due to occur between Saturn and Jupiter. Extremely rare, extremely powerful. It's going to have an effect on human consciousness. It's going to have an effect on the physical play out of what we experience in this realm. Now, I've always been very open to this kind of information, and this conversation that I had this week really resonated with me because it brought home to me that all of this goes way beyond COVID figures, tests, vaccines, all this talk of the Great Reset, all this talk of 5G rollouts and smart cities and whatever else it may be. That's all real world fine detail stuff. And it's clear to see why all that stuff is happening. Because if these psychics are able to intuit the fact that we're about to enter this incredible period for humanity, it's been called the Great Awakening. I know that's a bit of a trigger phrase. I know it's been bandied around a lot in recent years and it's been inappropriately used. It's been used in situations where people are anything but awakening to truth. But we've seen this year the scamdemic and everything that people have been subjected to, because this situation has affected pretty much everyone in the world. No one left out. The entire human population has been plunged into this one, and it cannot fail to have woken vast numbers of people up to the fact that something is desperately wrong here, and that our governments and all these sources, mainstream media outlets that previously they'd looked up to as telling them the truth and there to keep their best interests at heart, They are lying to them, and they are all performing to agendas and ulterior motives. So many people realise this now. So that alone has to be the origins of some kind of great awakening. But evidently this is going to be exacerbated and accelerated majorly in the weeks and months to come, with a lot pinned on that date of the winter solstice, 21st of December. So if these psychics and these mediums are able to intuit that this shift is coming, then the evildoers, the cabal, the architects of this narrative that is bringing in all this tyranny and enslavement, they surely know this as well. They will have their own remote viewers and their own psychics that will have been able to feed this information to them. And I believe they've known for many, many years that this shift is coming on the cusp of 2020, 2021. It would explain, wouldn't it, why they're throwing everything they've got at us all at once, why all this tyranny has been fast-tracked this year to such a major degree. They have thrown at us stuff that they would normally take 2 or 3 decades or longer to drip feed into society in small incremental steps. They've slapped it all on us all at once. As I say, in the process, it's woken up and alerted many people who would otherwise have just gone along with it and stayed asleep. And it has to be, the reason why they're doing this is that they realise this shift is coming, and they are panicking. They are scurrying around like rats on a sinking ship in absolute desperation to try to cling on to the control that they have, because they realise they're losing, and they're about to lose big time. This would explain why we're now being told there's a new wave of COVID and the figures are going through the roof and we've got to lock down again because it's all getting out of control. This is the narrative in America. That's obviously very closely connected to the outcome of the election and Biden being named by the media the incoming president. It's not going to be the case. Trump is going to get his second term. This is all theatrics. It's all delaying the inevitable. But in America, the architects have decided to tell everyone that COVID is through the roof and the figures are out of control and we've all got to lock down to control it. And that's been the same narrative that's been rolled out in various parts of Europe, other parts of the world, and specifically the UK, where the treacherous, poisonous, toxic mainstream media has once again been pushing the fear, pushing the propaganda, pushing the mind control by convincing everyone that the figures are out of control this winter and we've all got to go into lockdown. And on the 2nd of December, when this current lockdown is supposed to end, we may not be able to come out of it. We may have to keep it going to control the virus and keep the figures down and stuff, you know. And at the same time, we've had the banging of the drum for the vaccine. How predictable is this? Those of us that have been paying attention have known all along that a big part of the agenda here is to try and force vaccinations on the public on a mandatory, required basis in time. And what have we had in the last week? We had Boris Johnson coming out last Monday, the 9th of November, 9/11, a nicely encoded occultic date, making the announcement that the new vaccine from Pfizer is almost ready to go, and isn't it great news, folks? We can roll this out and we can finally get on top of this virus. And it speaks volumes that the mainstream press on that day heralded with great volume the announcement of this vaccine by saying, oh, at last we've got some good news. After all these months of doom and gloom, there's some good news at last. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it fantastic? The vaccine is on the way. More propaganda and mind control. And now Matt Hancock, more of him shortly. Matt Hancock has come out again, towing the official vaccine line and saying that the medical services, with the addition of the military, so they wheeled out a military officer on the announcement with Johnson last Monday to, again, subliminally impact people and make them feel that this situation is very grave and very serious. And now the military is involved. So we really do need to all pull together and do what we're told on this one. So we're told that the military is going to assist in the rolling out of this vaccine. And Matt Hancock has said they're going to be working 7 days a week, round the clock. And the priority is to get as many people, as many in the general public, vaccinated as quickly as possible as we head towards the end of December. Ring any bells? What's happening towards the end of December? Not Christmas, Saturnalia, but The 21st is the winter solstice, this date when we're told that the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter is going to have a major effect on human consciousness, and it's going to cause many people to respond to these changes and realise what's going on and see through lies and deception and mistruths that have pervaded for so long. So it's no coincidence to me that they're trying to get this vaccine inside everyone desperately, quickly, before the 21st of December, and Hancock has said as much in his announcements. The vaccine is, of course, going to be full of all kinds of toxic ingredients that not only are going to harm you physically, because it's not a good idea to be putting this kind of stuff in your body when we have a natural immune system gifted to us by the Creator, which is designed to see off all kinds of illness and disease. But also, the vaccine is clearly going to affect people's spirituality. There have been stories about how it's going to interact with the pineal gland, the portal to higher elevated levels of consciousness. It's going to interfere with that. It's going to block it, and it's going to cut you off from your spiritual nature, your higher self. It's going to mess with that relationship you have between the physical and spiritual aspects of you. So you can see why they're so keen to get this vaccine inside of as many people as possible all over the world, if they can get away with it, ahead of what they know is coming. I would say it's an exercise in futility. They are going to fail. There's going to be massive public resistance to the vaccine because there is awareness, even among normies who might be buying the official line that there's this beastly virus out there that's trying to kill us all. Even in those ranks, many people have seen the bad press that vaccines have received and are going to have their suspicions and aren't going to be queuing up as readily as the controllers would like them to get that jab in their arm. So there's going to be pushback there, and ultimately they are going to fail because from what many of these spiritual guides say, it is a done deal. We are all going to a better place. We are going to experience an upliftment and a betterment of humanity and different ways of living, better ways of living, leaving behind all these broken, toxic, counterproductive ways of living and associating with each other that we're all used to. We're moving forward into a very different world, and it's going to be very beneficial for everyone. It's a done deal, and to quote one of the memes that you often hear bandied around in the Q community, whatever your view is of what's going on there, you often hear the phrase, "Nothing can stop what is coming." And that certainly seems to be the case here. And the other phrase you get out of the Q camp is the slogan, "Where we go one, we go all." And that applies here as well, because we're all going along on this journey. No one's getting left behind. So the control system is scrabbling around in desperation to cling on to their control and cling on to their power, but ultimately they know they are losing. And isn't that what we're seeing? Isn't that what they're exhibiting in all this draconianism, all this totalitarianism, the outrageous lengths they're going to with all these documents that are getting leaked about what they want to do to us and how they want to take us out of our homes and take children away and lock us up in quarantine centres and torture us in custody and just be able to get away with it with no liability. All this stuff, doesn't it just speak to absolute panic and desperation because they know they're on their last legs? So that's some good news. The good news is that so many commentators on this situation are in agreement that we're headed for better times. We do have to go through a bit more shit. Clearly, the road is going to be bumpy, it is going to be rocky ahead. Not forever. We will come through these times. We might have to endure a bit more of it. Lord knows we're all tired of it. The last 8 months have felt like about 5 years for me, as this just gets dragged on and on and on and on. But that is a key pivotal date to keep in mind. The 21st of December, with poetic beauty, the winter solstice, is when these changes are said to be coming in, which makes 2021 a very interesting prospect for us all. So it is good news. And I'm trying to stay motivated and trying to stay optimistic on that level. I'm trying to stay away from all the doom and gloom. I get enough of it. My inbox continues to be filled with 95% dreadful, horrific prophecies and doom-laden information about what's coming in. And people seem to think that the minute they find one of these stories about how horrific and dystopian our future is going to be, they think, oh, I must send this to Mark. Mark would like to know about how dark and devastating everything is, so I've got to send this to him. Not realising that 200 other people have had the same idea that day as well. It's probably the same for many other truth researchers at this time. But if all you do is focus on that stuff and let it affect you, you're going to find yourself in a very dense, negative place. You're going to find yourself weighed and bogged down. You're going to find it affects you in your lower chakras. You're going to feel that anxiety, that fear down there, as I have and as I continue to do, because I have good days and I have bad days. But I'm trying to stay focused on the optimistic aspects of this, because ultimately we are going to win. We haven't been through all this to lose. I didn't come here to lose. None of us incarnated into this reality and made a choice to be a part of these incredible times to live as slaves. It's not why we came. We consented to be a part of this point in the timeline because we came to see the end of evil. We came to see this control system put down, never to return. We came to be on the side of what we know to be good and right action. The side of God is good versus evil, light versus dark. Guess what? Good is going to win, the light is going to come through, and we came here to assist in that process. As I always say, none of this should be taken as an invitation to just sit back, grab a bowl of popcorn and watch the show, watch it all unfold. We all need to continue to play our individual roles in the process that needs to take place. We'll all know instinctively in our hearts, through our conscience, what each of us needs to be doing. We all bring different things to the table. We have different skills to contribute. We all need to continue to do that. It's a message I've reiterated many times over these weeks. But as long as we all stay on that path, and as long as we all have the same vision and aim and objective in mind, which is living in truth, living in right action, an improvement and embetterment for the whole of humanity, and the downfall of evil, lies, deception, injustice. Just stay focused on truth, freedom, justice, love. These things are coming through, and we will win. Team God wins. You know, just thinking about this whole situation as I was assessing what to include in this video, it was brought home to me just how fragile and precarious the controllers' situation is in terms of everything they're doing to us and everything they want to try and bring in being based around the virus. Without the virus, there's nothing, because it's justifying all of this totalitarianism, every aspect of it. So if the masses at large, the general public of the world, could be made to realise beyond all doubt and all dispute that the virus narrative is one great big scam, then it's game over for them. It speaks a lot to the power of the mainstream media and the mind control, magic, witchcraft, spellcraft that they have over the minds of the general public, because if the mainstream media weren't there to push the lies and the propaganda, then the cat would already be out of the bag and this lie could never have taken root in the first place. So it's a major obstacle to overcome, the fact that the vast overwhelming majority of people in the world still believe what the mainstream media tells them and think that they're some kind of bastion of truth and integrity. And the same thing goes for governments. Sadly, we have to break that. But there are encouraging moves happening in that direction. So Rainer Fulmich there in Germany is continuing with his legal case of suing the German government, and this goes into the governments of many other countries in the world as well, holding them to account for the lie of COVID-19. They have documentation, they've got no end of insiders and whistleblowers and professionals that have come forward with indisputable information and data to show that the figures have been vastly exaggerated, that the whole thing has been used for propaganda and scaremongering, and there's just no foundation to any of these measures that have been brought in the wake of it, whether it's lockdowns, the wearing of masks, distancing, all of this stuff. And there are many, many other elements of pushback in different countries around the world now that I'm hearing. So the lie is continuing to fail. When the truth reaches a critical mass of the general public, it really is going to be game over, and the control system is then finished. So in America, you've got the Democrats with Biden as their flag waver. He'll never be president. There will never be a President Biden. But at the moment, they're acting with the complicity of the mainstream media as if he's got it in the bag and as if the election was theirs. Trump and his team are going to come with the hard evidence of electoral fraud. They're going to be able to prove that there was major cheating at the polls. And as soon as they do, he's going to be installed for his second term. And I like to think, if I haven't got my estimation of him very wrong, and many, many other people haven't got their estimation of him very wrong as well, that he is going to make the virus, COVID, disappear very quickly. He's hinted as much in public comments that he's said about one day this virus will just magically disappear. You watch, you wait. So it's unfortunate that we've got this debacle, this farce, this pantomime being dragged out now, where we've got Biden versus Trump and there's no clear winner, and it's going to take a while for it to go to the US Supreme Court, and we won't know for days or possibly weeks yet who the next president is going to be in terms of them being officially announced. So Trump is not going to be able to officially embark on his second term for some time yet. But I've got a lot of hope pinned on this virus situation being turned around very quickly once he does, because he knows damn well that this whole situation was cooked up in very large part to scupper his chances of getting a second term. And to add insult to injury, they had to throw this fraud and this ballot cheating into the mix as well in their desperation to keep Trump out. So that's got to tell you something. I know there'll be skeptics, I know there'll be naysayers, I know there'll be those that will say Trump is just another deep state actor playing a role. Well, we're going to see very soon the truth of the matter, one way or the other, aren't we? But I really hope that this virus situation is going to be made to go away, because if it goes away in America, it's going to have to start going away in these other places as well. And as I mentioned, it's been stepped up in America. They're claiming the figures are back through the roof. They're claiming that it justifies new lockdown measures, and that's been echoed in the UK and in other countries throughout Europe, as if what happens in America happens here as well. So if the virus goes away in the new year in America, it's going to have to go away here as well. And without the virus, they have nothing. Everything is pinned around the virus. On that note, the aforementioned Matt Hancock, word is that he is due to be arrested under the private criminal prosecution being brought against him in the case by the Bernician, Michael O'Bernicia, who I've interviewed a couple of times recently. He's bringing this common law case along with a team of barristers and lawyers and other professionals against specifically Matt Hancock as an individual man, not in his government role, not the government as a body or as an entity, but as Matt Hancock as a living, breathing man, debatable perhaps. And the word is that tomorrow, Monday the 16th of November, he's due to be served with a warrant for his arrest. And those inside the Bernicians' camp insist that this is going to be able to stick, that it is going to be a valid thing. I don't know how the public's going to get to hear about it, because clearly the mainstream media would avoid this like the plague. So it's going to be interesting if it does happen to reflect on how the general public's going to get to hear about it. Certainly it would be reported in alternative media realms. I'm just hoping and praying to God, literally with every fibre in my being, that this can be made to happen. It does sound too good to be true, but both Michael and Jonathan Trapman, who he works with as part of the People's Union of Britain, I encountered Jonathan at the Freedom Rally in Bristol on Saturday, had a quick chat with him there, and he really does feel that this can be made to stick, and that tomorrow Matt Hancock is going to be arrested for fraud, treason and genocide. It would be a beautiful thing to see that happen. There would be parties up and down the length and breadth of the UK. He is surely the most despised and loathed man in Britain behind Boris Johnson. And if Matt Hancock does go down for this, then clearly he's going to be the first domino in a long line that is going to fall. It won't be too long after that, if this case can be made to stick, that Boris Johnson goes the same way, because the same charges of fraud, treason and genocide obviously apply equally to him. And all the other British MPs are in the frame for this as well, who voted for an extension to the treasonous Coronavirus Act 2020 and an extension of the lockdown that we're currently experiencing, the second lockdown that was brought in on the 5th of November. All the 600 odd MPs that voted for this are also standing accused in these private criminal prosecutions of the same charges. So if Hancock goes down tomorrow, that is another major thorn in the side of this whole coronavirus narrative, and it's just one more way in which the whole scamdemic narrative stands a very strong chance of collapsing very soon. And when it does, there goes everything that has come along in its wake. There's going to be no more justification for this vaccination program. There's going to be no more justification for testing and tracing and contact tracing. There's going to be no more justification for businesses to have to close down, for any of the hospitality industry to not be able to operate the way they previously did. There's going to be no justification for social distancing. There's going to be no justification for mask wearing, because if the virus can be shown to be a major scam, or even if it's just said to have gone away, then all these things go in its wake. And so also does the great financial reset coming from the World Economic Forum. That is being justified off the back of the virus. Klaus Schwab, in the book that he's written about it, has said, we just saw it was a great opportunity, this pandemic, to introduce this new financial reset, Well, if the pandemic goes, then there goes the justification for everything to be reset and, rebooted. Things are going to get reset and rebooted, but not in the vision or in the imagination of the evildoers of this world. As I said before, all of this is going to have to happen on a basis that is decided by us, by humanity, as we work together collectively to find better ways of organising ourselves in society. So we're not going back to the way the world was in 2019, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. We can still take with us the things that we enjoyed from 2019, such as, for example, going out and enjoying yourself, because we've got this war on joy where they've taken away any opportunity to go out and have fun and engage in pleasurable leisure activities. You can't sing, you can't dance, you can't go to the theatre, you can't go to the cinema, you can't socialise with friends, you can't go to the gym, you can't go to the bingo hall, the pool hall. Many of us quite enjoyed doing these things, and as long as we're harming no one, then that is a choice that we should be able to make for ourselves without having those rights taken away from us. So we need a return to joy and happiness and pleasure, because these are essential components in life. So that's one thing we are going to want to take into this brave new future. But in terms of how everything else looks, well, we are going to have to make sure that this is on our terms, what we want, rather than having it dictated to us by these Satanists and these evildoers. I wanted to finish with a bit of a public service broadcast, a few things I wanted to mention. First off, you may have noticed the t-shirt that I'm wearing. Let me give you a better view of this. So this is one of many designs that has been put together by Emily for the tmill.com site, and she's one of many people over the weeks that has sent me t-shirts of this nature to wear in my videos and out at events. This is a great one for protest rallies, events of that nature, or just to wear in the supermarket or as you go about your regular daily business. It's a real conversation starter, it's messages to get people thinking. And so if you want to check out the rest of Emily's range and look at the other shirts she's got in there, I'll drop the details to her tmill.com range in the show notes below. This is a really important backup service. Talking of which, I've also been contacted over the weeks by a great many spiritual healers, and I've had a few sessions with some of them, which has been much needed in these challenging times. There's one lady in particular that I want to draw attention to. She goes by the name of Caroline Nettle, and she runs a site called spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk. So Caroline reached out to me a few weeks ago offering me some remote healing sessions. Hers are very different to other practitioners in the field. So she is able to tap into someone's energy field on a remote basis and kind of get a feel for their emotional, spiritual, mental state. But she ties that in with accessing the various body parts and the various organs that give rise to these different emotional and mental states. And she's able to tap into these bodily organs and these different parts of your physicality to really do some work there and work out where the trauma and the anxiety and where all the issues lie and iron them out. I've got to say, I've undergone 3 sessions with Caroline so far, and she's very good. She has intuited things that would be impossible to guess, so I know she's not some charlatan that's just making stuff up, because there's no way her accuracy rate would be this good. She's told me information about myself, which makes me convinced that she has been able to tap into my individual state and experience things from my perspective. She kind of draws that out into her own body, and she records the sessions so you can hear the processes that she's going through at the time. So I certainly recommend her work. If anyone feels they could benefit from a session of this nature, as I say, it's pretty unique, and I'll put the details of how you can contact her in the show notes below also. The final thing I want to mention is a website resource that's been put together by a friend of mine from up these sides, from an organisation called You Resist. This particular website is called silentmajority.co.uk. It's got many different functions. On the one hand, it serves as a very useful resource for alternative information on this scamdemic and all things connected to it. So it's a great place to point people that are searching for truth to normies that may be just starting to wake up and they're kind of wavering on the edge, point them towards some of the information on this site. On top of that, he's also trying to organise members in getting together and supporting each other and coming up with initiatives that they can take part in together, so they can pool their resources and their efforts and, really make it as effective as possible. One of the ideas he's come up with is setting times for non-maskers, those of us that don't muzzle up when we go into the supermarket, and we usually find that we're the only person in the entire store that's not wearing a mask. Well, his idea is that if groups of us get together and coordinate times in our own areas where we're going to go to Sainsbury's or Tesco, whatever it is, all at the same time, instead of just one person in the store without a mask, you're going to get 30 or 40, which is really going to give the staff and other people in the supermarket something to think about. And it gives us a bit of camaraderie and unity in going about our business. That's just one initiative he's come up with. He's encouraging people to get involved in the forum so that they can reach out to each other, share ideas and support each other. So that's all there at silentmajority.co.uk/social. Truth Finder Social. Again, details in the show notes below. It's great to see people coming up with all these ideas, supporting each other. People have different skills, different ideas to bring to the table, but ultimately we're all on the same team. It's the winning team. It's Team God. We are going to win, and we're all going to help each other through this. So it's great to see people coming up with all these resources. We can't fail as long as we stay on this path and stay committed. The saga continues, but I think that's quite enough for this session, so I'll catch you all again next time. Thanks for watching.